Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're on the Prairie 360 again. Last video we cleaned the carburetor, got it running, got it idling, but now we want to check the valves. These valves have never been checked. We're going to see what the clearances look like. The hardest part about this is just getting to them. You got to take the gas tank off, got to take some of these shields off, some plastic pieces. But once you have them off, there's only one intake, one exhaust valve, and it's pretty easy to do. So let's jump into it. Taking the pull starter off so you can get to the crank bolt to turn the engine over by hand. Right above that, there's actually a little plug that you can use a flathead screwdriver. That's where you'll be able to see the timing mark. What I'm doing now is I take the valve covers off so I can actually watch the valves open and shut, open and shut. But what you're doing is you're turning the engine over until you get the top dead center on the compression stroke. That means the valves are going to be completely shut, or they should be. Valves are shut, and then you can get your clearances. And what we're going to do here is, see, I'm going to come over here, we're going to turn the engine over, and then I have a picture. It's hard to see, but you'll look through the little sight hole and you'll see a T and a dash. And what you want to do is you want to line that up with the mark that's on the engine case itself. Once it's lined up on the compression stroke, you can grab the valves and hopefully they have a tiny little bit of play, and you'll see that. Very little play on the intake side and a little bit more play on the exhaust. But this is when you know you're on the compression stroke, top dead center, and you can adjust them. So these were a little tight, a little bit out of spec, so we're going to loosen up. You can use a 9mm, that worked pretty good. And then you want to find the spec that the quad has, which I do have it labeled here. And I use my filler gauge. I put that in, I tighten it up. You need to have some drag. You don't need it to be super tight, you just need to have a little bit of drag. I usually go on a little bit of the higher end of the spec because it usually does tighten back up. The exhaust is really hard to get a video of, so you do the same exact thing for the exhaust as I am doing for the intake. One thing I do recommend is double checking your work. These take no time at all to do, so just turn the engine over a couple times, make sure you're back top dead center, and recheck it. Make sure you're back dead center on the spec that you want to be. Looks good to me, so we're going to put the quad back together. One thing to note is that the manual does state to add a little bit of grease to the O-ring that's on the valve cover. So please do that before you put the valve cover on and tighten it all up. We're going to put the bare minimum back on the quad just so we can start it up and listen for any weird noises. After a valve adjustment, there should be very little noise. Might hear a little tick here and there, but relatively quiet. So let's fire this thing up, see if we hear anything. Fired up real easy, purring like a kitty. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to ask. Remember, God bless.